You're watching WHPS, Highland Park, Detroit.
FM 88.1 WHPR, Highland Park.
WVIE 107.3 FM Charlotte, Amalia, Virgin Islands.
The views and opinions expressed on the following show are not necessarily the views and opinions of WHPS, its affiliates, management, or sponsors.
Hello, Detroit. How are you doing on this Monday evening with this schizophrenic weather that we have? This is crazy. Like, it was a snowstorm yesterday, and I was driving my godson home. My great-nephew home. It's sleet, snow, and everything. And then I come up today, it's just sunshine, and I don't get it. But anyway, how are you doing? You've tuned in to Black Coffee. Excuse me, no sugar, no cream, straight talk with Valerie. And I have in the studio with me today, Brigitte Brown Jackson. And how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. I'm blessed.
Say hello to everyone in Detroit.
Hello, Detroit. Good to be here. I call this my second home.
All right. And I'm so happy to have her here because tonight we're going to talk about the Black Panther Party, and not just a party. Her uncle, Mark Clark, was a Black Panther. And so let's get into a little bit of the history of the Black Panther Party. The Black Panther Party was founded by Huey Newton and Bobby Seale on October 15, 1966, in Oakland, California. The party's objective was self-defense against people they felt were prejudiced towards African Americans. The Black Panthers' actions and the party's ideals were heavily influenced by the beliefs of notable civil rights activist Malcolm X. Malcolm X's ideals included militant actions with, at the same time, still displaying self-dignity, self-respect to others as well as himself during his course. The premise of the party was, we want freedom, we want power, we want to determine the destiny of our Black and oppressed communities. So let's go into a video of the Black Panthers' protests and demands, and let's hear straight from them.
Let's get into the inner workings and the meaning of this. Let's get into the inner workings and the meaning of a black revolution and why black people have a right to take what's theirs. You can read the platform in the program, and it's a basic program, and it simply says exactly what black people have been crying for 400 years. One, we want freedom. We want power to determine the destiny of our own black communities. Two, we want full employment for our people. Three, we want decent housing fit the shelter of human beings. Four, we want an end to the robbery of the black community by the white racist businessmen. Five, we want decent education that teaches us about the true nature of this racist, decadent system. Education that teaches us about our true history and our role in society and the world today. Six, we want all black brothers to be exempt from military service. Seven, we want an immediate end to police brutality and murder of black people. 8, we want all black brothers and sisters held in federal, county, state, city, jails, and prisons to be released because they have not had a fair trial. They've been tried. They've been tried by all white juries who have no understanding of the average reasoning man in the black community. Number 9, this is where Brother Huey is being caught. We just want the courts to make sure we have peers on the jury, people from the black community, as defined by the jive Constitution, the so-called United States. 10, summary with the major political objectives. That is, we want land, bread, housing, clothing, education, justice. We want peace. Major political objectives. We want a black plebiscite. The UN, black colonial subjects will participate, dealing with, analyzing, projecting politically upon the racist atrocities that have been committed against black people in this nation. So the concept is this, basically. The whole black nation has to be put together as a black army. And we're going to walk on this nation. We're going to walk on this racist power structure. And we're going to say to the whole damn government, stick 'em up. This is a hold up. We come for what's ours.
So we heard that clip from the Black Panther Party to hear from them actually what their demands were for the community, better education and other things. But let me break this down for you and read. They had a 10-point plan, but I'm going to read a couple of the points that I felt out of their whole plan that I read that I felt were pertinent. And we keep talking about a black agenda and all of these other things. We don't need another agenda. The blueprint had been laid. We can take this one right here from the Black Panther Party. So, no party member can have narcotics or weed in his possession while doing party work. Any member found shooting narcotics will be expelled from this party. No party member can be drunk while doing daily party work. No party member will use, point, or fire a weapon of any kind unnecessarily or accidentally at anyone. No party member can join any other army or force other than the Black Liberation Army. And I did a little research on that, and that's because they had a lot of things in common. No party member can have a weapon in his possession while drunk or loaded off narcotics or weed. No party member will commit any crimes against other party members or black people at all, and cannot steal or take from the people, not even a needle or a piece of thread. When arrested, Black Panther members will only give their name, address, and will sign nothing. Legal first aid must be understood by all party members. Basically, they knew how to be arrested because they knew that they would be, and they knew how to be arrested, and they were trained. When arrested, everyone in a leadership position must read no less than 2 hours per day. 2 hours per day to keep abreast of the political situation and the things that's going on in the community. Yes. And our kids play on these games 10 hours a day, but each member could only they had to read 2 hours per day. No chapter or branch shall accept any grants, poverty funds, money, or any other aid from any government agency without contacting national headquarters, because they wanted self-sufficiency. Yes. They didn't want all of the handouts from the government because they knew that that would keep us in poverty, and they didn't want that. No. Turn everything in that you capture from attacking the enemy. Now that we have covered the history of the party, we're going to talk about an unsung hero of the movement, because I know most often you hear about the Fred Hampton, and I saw when I was researching a lot about his girlfriend who was pregnant and shot, and they don't mention your uncle's name as much, but he was there. Yes. He was there in the apartment building with Fred Hampton at the time. Yes. So let's watch this video clip that I found from your family's official page. Yes. And we're going to go into a little bit about your uncle, the unsung hero of the Black Panther movement, Mark Clark. So we saw that clip about your uncle, and I call him the unsung hero because,
Yes.
again, when we think about that time in Chicago and we hear about what happened, Fred Hampton is brought to the limelight of that. But your uncle was the defense captain,
Yes.
Mark Clark. So what do you think inspired your uncle to become a Black Panther?
Well, he started off working as a young person with the NAACP because, again, he wanted to fight injustice. He did not like some of the things that were going on. So we're from Peoria, Illinois. And before I go into that, I want to backtrack for a moment. The reason why, again, Chairman Fred Hampton is so much in it is because he was the Illinois State Chairman. So he was the chairperson, and they really were targeting him. My uncle also was, again, a target. He was the Peoria chapter founder.
Okay.
And so he was under attack as well, but they really, it was a little clip that was in the video just a moment ago that Hoover wanted to really get rid of them and eliminate them because he did not want, quote, his quote, a Black Messiah. And we know how powerful Chairman Fred Hampton was. He captured just people. He was like one of the greatest orators and everything. But again, my uncle had that same charisma. He had that same, again, a fight about himself and everything. And he was very much a leader. And, you know, if the people that, if you want to go and watch the entire video, towards the end, there's a lot of people that are talking about him that were a part of the party that he was able to really get to join. You know, some of them were on the fence and, you know, it was so many unknowns at that time. You know, now we have the media and we have social media, we have Facebook, we have the internet, we have so much technology. You know, they didn't have all of that back then. And so there were some apprehensions with some people, but my uncle had a way of getting people to, again, join and participate and help out. And so he was able to do that. He was, again, a very wise beyond his years because he was only 22 when he was assassinated.
Yes. And, you know, when I was looking at the official website, I believe your family put up, your aunt, Gloria, was saying that he was perfect because of the leadership abilities that he had, but his spirituality and his beliefs in the Most High made him the perfect person for the position that he held. Kerry Washington had this quote: I think most people, when they think about the Black Panther Party, they think in very abstract, caricatured terms. They think about black fist in the air, but they don't think about the actual people and the families and the relationships. So, who was Mark Clark? The uncle, the brother, the family man.
Well, he was very beloved. So he came from a very big family. My grandmother had 18 children. My grandmother, my grandfather, you know, they were married. And so came from a very, very big family. He is actually my maternal uncle. So he's my mother's brother.
Okay.
And very big family, very loving, caring family. And so, you know, that's the part that people don't understand. You know, Black Lives Matter, and there are people that's behind all of this. I sat recently in one of the survivors speak platforms, forums rather, and I was sitting listening to one of the moms talk, and it took me back to my grandmother. You know, it's like he was beloved. You know, my grandmother lost her 22-year-old son, and the worst part of it is she had to hear it on the media. They were not informed. He was listed in the morgue as an unidentified person.
Wow.
Yes.
That is crazy. And, you know, I think about that these days when murders and things of that nature is reported. Like, do they even wait until the family is, like, notified or whatever before they put these stories out? Or, you know, they're just media whores. They just want the information out there. You were very young.
Very.
When your uncle was part of the movement. But if you hear stories of your uncle throughout your family, What would be one of your fondest recollections of what your family would say about your uncle, Mark Clark?
Well, one of the reasons why I am the person who I am today was probably my fondest memory. My mom told me a story. I was going through some turbulent times during my own life, and I had a lot of trauma that I was dealing with, and I was in school, dropped out of school. I had gotten on welfare. I had 2 children, and I got back in school. And when I got back in school, I was in a African American Studies class, and we were talking about the Black Power movement. So I got excited because I'm like, oh, I know something about this. My uncle was a Black Panther. You know, throw my fist up in the air.
Oh, yeah.
And I had to laugh because the people in the class knew a lot more than I did. And so I went to my mother's house that evening, and I'm like, wait a minute, how can somebody in my class tell me more about somebody that has the same DNA as me? And so she sat down with me and she shared some different things. And now, as a mother and a grandmother, I understand it. Our family was so traumatized by the event and then the long drawn out court case, because it was on record at that time, the longest court case in U.S. history. And so it was a lot that my mother
The court
went
case
through.
meaning your family went into litigation
Yes,
because they murdered them, the FBI.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and so it went into 13 years before it was resolved. And it still wasn't resolved because none of them ever served time, and they were not held accountable for what they did. So it was settled in civil court. But going back to the story, so my mom tells me that, you know, my uncle's last words. So my family's very prophetic, and so my mother's very prophetic, and she had a dream that he got killed. And so she went to him and said, please don't go back to Chicago. He had come home. He was in Peoria at the time. And she said, please don't go back. And he said, I have to go back. I know my life is on the line, but I have to do this. And at the time, my cousin and I was 3, and my cousin was a little bit over 1. We were playing in the floor like children do. And he said, I have to do this for them. And he left and literally was killed weeks later. And that resonated with me. I stopped being immature. I stopped being a college dropout. And today I have 3 degrees. And I owe that to my uncle.
Yes.
I didn't know him. Again, at 3, I have no recollections, but I carry him with me everywhere I go. I went from being a biology major to an education major. I changed my whole life because of the story my mom told me when I was in college. So it really made an impact. But there's lots of family stories talking about how, you know, funny he was, a loving, caring person he was. He didn't play, though. He didn't play about picking with his siblings or anything. He could box. He was very artistic, very eloquent with speaking, loved all of my family. They're very talented in talking. As you can see, I got it too.
Hey, I'm a PK. I talk a lot also.
And they were PKs. So my grandfather was a pastor and a district elder. So, you know, it was, something else growing up in their household.
Well, one thing I can say and tell my listeners, he influenced you because you have a book.
Yes.
Can I see your book?
Uh-huh.
That you wrote. Your book called Panther in the Sky. So, tell us a little bit more about Panther in the Sky.
Okay. So as I said, I was in college and, you know, found out some things. And then I started studying. After I had the conversation with my mother, I graduated 2 years later. And when I graduated, I landed a teaching job. So I'm an educator by trade. I landed a teaching job, and I started a writing club in the school district I was working with. And so I wanted the children to know how to write. So I said, well, I'll write a story. And then I came up with the idea, I'll write a story about my uncle. So I actually wrote this book 25 years ago.
Wow.
And just recently published it last year. So it was 26 years ago now. And published it now. And the beautiful thing about it is my illustrator was one of my students in that writing club 26 years ago, and I was showing him how to write. So he did my illustrations for me. And so Panther in the Sky is a story about a mom telling her daughter about Uncle's story. And so it was my way. At the time, my daughter was just born, my youngest daughter, and my older 2 children. I had started telling them about my uncle because I didn't want his legacy to be left out.
Absolutely.
As you said, you know, we hear a lot about some of the other Panthers, but you know, he's mentioned, but he's almost like an asterisk sometimes.
He's an unsung hero.
And I wanted to make sure his legacy always stayed there. And so I wrote Panther in the Sky to honor him. My manuscript was messed up. It got messed up in a flood. I had a home flood, and it was messed up. Life happened. Didn't ever come back to it. My daughter wrote a book about 12 years ago, and I said, oh, I'm getting my paperback out. I'm gonna write my book. Life happened again. I didn't do it. Last year was the 50th year celebration. December 4th of 2019 was 50 years. I said I would not. I refused. In 2018, I came back to it and said it has to come out this year to honor him. And so we had a big 50th year commemorative celebration tribute, and Panther in the Sky came out of that. So it's very child friendly. Don't go into details about, you know, some of the things, but enough that the children will know that the Black Panthers weren't enemies. They were the people's people. And it was propaganda that told otherwise because they had a great agenda.
Absolutely. That's a perfect segue because the Black Panther Party did a lot of things. They had clinics. They fed the poor.
Yes.
They gave away clothes. So I'm going to read this excerpt. The government would soon start to ridicule the party and also use the COINTELPRO, which is an acronym for Counterintelligence Program, which at many times was illegal actions by the FBI, which came out when the Panthers brought that to the forefront, that what they're doing is illegal, and you alluded to the case.
Yes.
That was brought about. They raided the Black Panthers office, and many party members were harassed through phone tapping. Party movements in Chicago, such as food provisions, were burnt down. The FBI's actions would also start to become violent on December 4th, 1969, when the police forcefully entered Black Panther Party members Fred Hampton's home while he was sleeping, when at the time with his pregnant girlfriend, and murdered him and your uncle, Mark Clark.
Yes. And so one of the things that you just said in there when you talked about the programs that they had, so they were about the survivor programs. And again, they were a target because, again, Chairman Fred Hampton was so powerful with his influence, with his voice, that he could bring and generate stuff that other people hadn't been able to do. So again, he definitely was a target. We call her his widow. His widow, she goes by the name of Injury now. Back then, it was Deborah Johnson. And so she still keeps this going. And every year, December 4th, there's a memorial service that's held. But not only that, this has continued for 50 years. She's continued to fight and continue to bring those things happening in Chicago. One of the things that my family, again, has continued to do is, again, we don't want to just keep his legacy alive. We want to do things. And so there are things that, you know, several family members are doing in honor to, again, to make sure that we are being a part of what he started, even though he couldn't finish it. Because again, at 22.
Yeah, very 22. Young, but definitely a lot of energy and empowerment. And it's almost like he was walking in his truth.
Yes.
As he said when he was leaving the home, I'm doing this for them. Now, with all of the free clinics and giving away the food and the other things that they were doing within the community, I also heard in a documentary that they went to the church. And I don't want to get on the church need to do more bandwagon. Because that soapbox, I'll be on it all night. However, what was interesting, a lot of churches were afraid or refused to actually be a part of what your uncle and Fred Hampton were trying to do. But they did find this one church that agreed that, yes, we will pass out the food, etc. And pressure from the police department, FBI, and other people in that church ended up backing out. So with that happening, and also the death of your uncle and Fred Hampton, how do you feel that impacted? Because again, these people are rallied around, they're excited. You know, we have these parties all around the country, Huey Newton, Barbie Seale, your uncle, Fred Hampton, all of this stuff going on, and then all of a sudden it's gone. What impact do you think that had?
Oh, I think it had a major, major impact. As I said, I'll be nice with my words today. But
this black coffee, you
Hoover-
don't have to.
Hoover, well, I can't say those words.
Oh,
I shouldn't
okay.
even be thinking them. I'm a minister of the gospel. But anyhow, Hoover, with all of his scrupulous tactics, and scrupulous can't even, define how ruthless he was. Again, it had to be stopped because what they were doing was so out of the box and unorthodox and ready. People were ready for this. We had lost Martin Luther King. We had lost Malcolm X. And so it was time for a new movement to come on board. And matter of fact, on the back of my book, I have on here, I say, it was the most influential civil rights group. But they weren't just any ordinary civil rights group. They really believed in, we're going to hold you accountable. And so that's one of the things that, again, when I just recently attended one of the Survivor Speaks forums, I was, just appalled at hearing some of the stuff that we still have prosecuting attorneys doing. We still have judges doing. We still have state's attorneys doing. This was happening 50 years ago. They not only lied, but they did so much manipulation, paying people. How much is somebody's life worth? To do some of the things. You read at the beginning their principles, what they stood on and what they believed in. And one of the things was really big with, again, Chairman Fred, and as well as with my uncle, is they didn't believe in drugs, but he was drugged. That's why when the raid happened, he could not, again, he was out of it. Well, they had a full floor plan, as you saw in one of the videos that you showed. They had a full floor plan because, again, they had an informant that had given them all of that. For basically, you sold yourself out for pennies, because what they paid him wasn't what other people were getting, but you sold yourself out. And it's sad because that's still happening now. But we have people doing it with titles. We had people doing it, but now we really have people that are doing it with titles. We're selling our people out.
But we've always had that. Let's think back about slavery.
Yes.
You had the house Negro, and then you had the field Negroes.
Yes.
So that just still is perpetuating itself. Your uncle and the Black Panther Party, they were martyrs.
Yes.
For us. We've dropped the ball because I found this quote. And I say this, you can kill a revolutionary, but you can't kill the revolution. Or can you? And I say yes, because we have dropped the ball.
Yes.
We have dropped the ball. And when people kept saying, what's the black agenda? And I hear, some people that I hold in high esteem, Roland Martin,
Yes.
and some of the other people talking about the black agenda. We don't need one. If we want to be militant about this thing, we have what the Black Panther Party has put together.
Exactly.
And see, most people look at the Black Panther Party like it was a gang and they just wanted to go out and kill. No, they wouldn't kill. They weren't going to take anybody's BS, but it was about empowerment. It was about having freedom and being free, because freedom is not free. It always costs.
Yes.
And your uncle and Fred Hampton, they paid the price. It's still some Panthers in jail.
Yes. Today.
50 years they've been in there, like they murdered somebody.
Yes.
Well, a couple did kill a couple of police officers, but it's still some that's in jail, right? You can kill the revolutionary, but you can't kill the revolution. Or can you? And I say yes. I say yes.
I believe
and
if we were able to talk to them, that they would come back and say that they were highly disappointed.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, and where we're at, our mobility, our again ineffectiveness to collaborate, to work together, to again get out of personal agendas, and we're not involved whatsoever with the bigger idea. One of my favorite people to read and to discuss and to talk is Claude Anderson. And Dr. Claude Anderson, and he talks about, again, if we're going to, as a black community, get together, we have to have code of ethics. We have to have some things, and again, a lot of that is lost because it's about me, myself, and I.
So listen to this. The Black Panthers who officially ceased to exist in 1982, seem to have become posthumously fashionable in the past few years. The opening sequence of the Black Panther movie is set in a public basketball court in downtown Oakland, which is a strong allusion to the foundation of the party that took place in that same location in 1966. And then Beyonce stunned the nation with her 2016 Super Bowl homage replete with black leather jackets, berets, and raised fists. Behind this veneer of public flirtation with the Panthers, there is very little public discussion about the 1970 upheaval and the aftermath. There are many people who will talk about the injustice in this country, but only a few will do something about it. Which are you? That was a quote from your uncle.
Yes, I was going to say that's his quote.
Yes, it is. Yes. So, why do you think people are so mesmerized by what the Black Panther stood for, but don't take the steps to implement their practices or to stand firm on their beliefs or to try to come together in our community? Why do you think that is?
It goes back to what I just said. I believe, we've gotten comfortable. And I'll have to admit, for a while I was in my comfort, as well. I would educate. I was a teacher for 10 years and a principal for 16. And I would teach and educate. I even have a museum, that I would go around to schools that I was in, and I would bring all those materials and things in. And I would make sure people were educated. But then I started having to ask myself in more recent years, have I done enough, though, in the civil engagement part to be able to do? Now, you have your spectrum. On your spectrum, you have some people that, again, that are very, very strong activists. They might even be a little bit on the side, like the Panthers, militant. And then you got some people that might be a little bit more passive, but again, they're still getting the job done. But you have a lot of people that are living in comfort. And because I've arrived and I've gotten there, I've thought about, and this week I've really been thinking, I'll just say the recent publicity about one very personal news anchor that, put some stuff out on Kobe Bryant. And, I just got incensed with that because I'm like, when do we get to the point where we really collectively as a group of people come together and have our agenda together? Again, like in a family. Again, we came from a family of very large. My grandmother passed almost 20 years ago. She had 125 offspring. She didn't have any siblings. She was the only child with 125 offspring. You keep your dirty laundry at home. You don't air it on the, back then they had clotheslines. You don't put the clothesline out there with your dirty laundry. And we don't care about one another enough. And I think we really, really need to work on that. I think some people who have had the influence have gotten up. And so that's one of the things that I loved about the Black Panthers, because it wasn't about capitalism or any of that. It was, again, about community and that social involvement.
Absolutely, and there's so much injustice, and we refuse to stick together.
Yes.
Or someone's going to sell you out. And with the work that Survivors Speak has been doing, and of course I've been working with Trisha and her movement, and people still for free. We don't get paid to do this. I don't have any problems in my life. She doesn't have any problems in her life. We're out here on a battlefield fighting for other people, and you won't believe some of the stuff that people say and do.
Yes.
So I'm with Snoop.
Yes.
Hey, dog-haired, he went all the way in, and I was like, that's right. She deserved it. Yes. The death threat part, I don't know, but he was in his emotions. And, people have been beating up on him, but she had her freedom of speech. Why can't he have his? Hey, in the words of Nene Leakes, I said what I said.
Yes.
She was out of pocket.
Yes, out of pocket.
So let's go to the hip-hop Black Panther rap video. You have been listening to Black Coffee, No Sugar, No Cream, and we're in the studio with Brigitte Brown Jackson, the niece of Black Panther Mark Clark, and we will be right back.
I'm a little late on this one. You know how to do my version. I heard all these rappers doing it, but they ain't doing it right. They ain't saying the right thing. You need to give these kids something to look up to. so I'm gonna give him something to look up to. Let's go. Huey P, Panther. Bobby Seale, Panther. Mumia Jamalia, Panther. A Phoenix Shakoshi, Panther. Before Black Lives Mattered, we had the Black Panthers. Fed up with pigs and them badges, putting out kids in them handcuffs. Back when they killed Martin Luther, then came to the hood and started shooting. A couple of militant students got armed like the army and started recruiting. Started planning for missions, stocking up ammunition. With the Second Amendment, using their own laws against them. Went to the crime and confronted the cops. Top of the roof like a neighborhood watch. Shotty inside of the caddy, they drive up and hop up and stand in formation like SWAT. Ready to cock, just stating the cause. Ain't breaking no laws. When the enemy's armed, self-defense means that you take them to war. Huey P, Panther. Bobby Seale, Panther. Mumia Jamalia, Panther. A Phoenix Shakoshi, Panther. Bobby Hutton, Panther. Eldridge Cleaver, Panther. Fred Hampton, one of the Panthers, killed in a government scandal. J. Edgar Hoover approved a new movement, the movement on Huey P. Newton, that they call COINTELPRO, a counterintelligence program that caused some confusion. Started framing the innocent on secret missions, infiltrating meetings and leaving no witness. When they start sneaking into your house, that's when it's time to start shooting. Lose now leaders, who wanna lead us? Some go to Cuba, some go to Jesus, some go to prison. Lost in the system, Mumia Abu Jamal need a new witness. Gotta remember, Panther's a symbol, fist in the air, at the Olympics, black leather coat, hand on the pistol. The Panther's more than a comic book hero. Listen, it's no different today. The cops are still killing away. Imagine the Panthers were in Baltimore in the day when they killed Freddie Gray. That's right, you got the power. We always had the power. You gotta stand up for what you believe in and fight for it. Huey P, Panther. Bobby Seale, Panther. Fred Hampton is one of them Panthers. Mumia Jamalia, Panther. Bobby Hutton, Panther. Eldridge Cleaver, Panther. A Phoenix Shakoshi, Panther. So Tupac was born as a Panther.
So, this is another one of your uncle's quotes. The white man did create the problem, but it's our problem to solve.
Yes.
We were talking a little bit on the break about the root cause of this problem, because when we moved out of slavery,
Yes.
we were into segregation. And I too believe that desegregation hurt us. It wasn't for our good. It was by design, and it hurt us. It broke up that sense of community that we had, because we had everything in our community, and that fear factor gets in. You know, in 1926 Tulsa, Oklahoma, when they blew up Black Wall Street. So anytime we would try to build, something would happen. The FBI got in, broke down the movement with your uncle, broke up Black Wall Street. Desegregation hurt us.
Yes.
And we're still divided in a lot of ways. And like I said, I read that Facebook post and I believe it. If the mothers and fathers, a lot of them know what their kids are doing. They know that they're trying to secure the bag the wrong way. They know that they have these firearms, some in their house. The dope is in their house or whatever. If every parent, I don't care how old your kid is, if you go out and get your son off the street corner with the dope, go out and take the guns from your son, go get your daughter off the stripper pole or whatever, be a parent.
Yes. We can stop a lot of the problems.
We can stop a lot of the problems. Be a parent.
Yes.
So, you spoke about J. Edgar Hoover. He called the Black Panther Party the greatest threat to internal security of the country.
Yes.
And he wanted to diminish the power, and he did, by any means necessary.
By any means necessary.
Even through death. And nothing happened.
No. I recently went to Washington, D.C., and as I was talking before the radio broadcast came on, and I was saying, for some reason, 2019, I got really emotional about all of this. But I had to realize that I'm a mother. Not only am I a mother now, I'm a grandmother now, and I started feeling my grandmother's pain. And so I was in Washington, D.C. Last year for around spring break time. My husband and I, we went to go do some research before the book came out. And
was that at the New African American Museum?
Yes, we went to go visit the New African. So while we're walking to get there, because we parked in a structure a ways, we walked past the Hoover building, and I got in my emotions. I said, he has the audacity to still have a building with his name on it, and they know his legacy. And we're still fighting for people to have things that have come from the black community that have done so many great and extraordinary things. He tried to literally take away everything that Martin Luther King left here. You know, it's sad. It's just really, really sad.
Oh, you think that's sad? You give a known racist bigot the Medal of Freedom on Rosa Parks' birthday?
Yes.
Putting them in the same category with Rosa Parks and Mother Teresa?
And you just said thank you to the Tuskegee Airmen.
So, you know, all of that's by design.
Yes.
And we have to develop our own, like you say, and come together and do what we need to do in our own communities. I strongly feel, I'm just going to say it like it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about the money,
Yes.
but it's about the money,
Yes.
right? That becomes our problem. That becomes our problem. We sell ourselves out for money, the informants, you know, and all of these other things that's going on. If that informant wasn't down with the party and what your uncle was doing, he could have just went on and said, hey, brother, I'm not down with this. You guys go ahead. But to sell them out for some money, we do a lot of things for materialism, a whole lot of things. And it hurts us. $1 trillion we spend.
1.3 trillion.
Materialism.
And then don't even understand our power.
Mm-mm.
You can do some things with $1.3 trillion.
Absolutely.
But we have to do that to come back together. You had said something earlier about, you know, why do I think people are so mesmerized by it? Because, you know, we get caught up in, we're in the generation of the reality TV. And so we get caught up in all of that stuff. I can put on the beret. I can put on the jacket. I can, again, you know, go around with my fist up and everything. But am I really willing to be principled enough to do the things that they really stood for? And that's what we're calling for. And that's what a higher, you know, consciousness gives us in everything that we do. And that's what I'm saying. You know, I've always shared, I've always talked. I don't think I've ever been, you know, that comfortable, but I was comfortable enough. Well, now I got myself out of my comfort zone. And I'm like, not anymore. My uncle died. Literally, my mom tells me the last words was, for me. Mm-hmm. So much is given, much is required. And again, I've always educated, but I'm at a whole nother level now. It's by any means necessary. And I don't care. I had to laugh because when I told you I went to D.C., I went into the Library of Congress and I was doing research, and I was doing all this research on the Black Panthers. And I was gathering stuff. I got a chance to see stuff I had never seen before. Found some photos of my grandmother, and one of my grandmother and my aunt. And I sent it to her. I thought she had seen it and had it, and she didn't. And she was like, oh, thank you. And so I'm like, wow. I get outside, and my phone wouldn't work. I said, have they tapped my phone? And, you know, I said that laughingly. I've never been a conspiracy theorist, but there are some things that do happen, and I do believe it. And so, but I'm at the point right now, I don't care the price because it has to be better. 50 years later, my children, my grandson doesn't have a better shot than I had 50 years ago.
Baby, I hear you. And it's very sad, and it's scary.
Yes.
As I pick up my great nephew LJ every weekend and every break that he has, and I cry a lot of nights because he's such an emotional, caring kid. And I'm not one when he falls, don't cry, you a boy. No, cry, your leg bleeding. You know, that's something to cry about. I don't want to raise an emotionless black man.
Yes.
You know, I want him to be able to identify with his emotions and be able to express how he feels. But it's scary because nothing is changing.
Yes.
And it's very scary that I'm going to have to inject some of these things. Like, I was trying to teach him how to fight because, you know, he was getting hit and stuff. And I'm like, all right, I've had enough. So I'm actually like, come on, you know, I'm going to teach you how to knock somebody out. And he started crying. He was like, I don't want to do it.
He didn't want to do it.
He didn't want to do it. And it broke my heart because he has to learn it.
Yes.
He has to learn it. And that's so unfortunate. And when you were saying that your uncle, he knew, he was like, I know I might die. doing this, but I'm okay with it.
Yes.
And I have been searching for something that I may be willing to die for, and I haven't found it. So it takes a lot
Yes.
for someone to say, I will lay my life down
Yes.
on the line
Because I believe in this.
because I believe in this.
Yes. Yes.
That's powerful because I've been searching. Like, is there something, my great, not someone, because I could lay my life down for some of the youngsters that's in my family. I'm 55 years old. If I had to turn my life in to let this 6-year-old live on,
Yes.
that's someone. But something,
A cause.
I have not identified a cause
Yes.
that I would lay my life down for. So for those who were willing to do that, I honor them for doing it for me. And I don't mean like the military, you sign up to do
Yes.
that, and I'm not diminishing it. I pay respect to them also. But I'm saying just a lay person to lay their life on the line for a cause. I salute your uncle. I raise my fist to your uncle for doing that, because he said he was doing it for you, but he was doing it for me
Yes.
and anybody else that came behind him.
Yes.
He was giving his life, gave his life. 21 years old, Fred Hampton was, and he was
22.
22. They just
Yes.
began to
Adulthood.
live.
Yes. But the thing about both of them were, they started this as young people, as teenagers. They were a part of the NAACP. So they were doing things, but again, they weren't getting the results that they wanted from the NAACP, the efforts and the movement that they were doing. So again, they were drawn to, again, this new movement. What do you mean? We get to stand up to police brutality? We have rights, and that's a piece that I didn't want to, gloss over either. They were highly intelligent, as you said about the 2 hours a night reading. Can you imagine if this generation went back to that? So as an educator, that was one of the reasons why I personally, you were asking why people are so fascinated with the Black Panthers. That's one of the things that I was so fascinated as an educator and wanting my students, again, my school, and even my staff members, I used to share with them how powerful that was. They knew the law. They were trained. They had doctors and lawyers. So everything that they needed, you were talking about earlier, the survival program, the health clinic, the sickle cell testing, all of that. They had champions and they had people that were able to deliver and do all of that. Again, going back to the Tulsa, the Black Wall Street. And it was, more than just Tulsa. It was multiple locations.
Absolutely.
And those cities thrived because we were able to have economic power.
Absolutely. So let me read this excerpt. The Black Panthers promoted equality internally and externally to their organization and aimed to protect blacks. The initial platform of the party was to promote self-defense from police brutality, better housing, better education, higher rates of employment, and the freedom of black prisoners. They had 8 points of attention. When you talk about them being intelligent, every last one of them had to speak politely, pay fairly for what you buy, so they wouldn't look for the hookup. Oh, it's $35. I got 27. They weren't looking for the hookup. Pay fairly for what you buy. Return everything you borrow. Pay for anything you damage. Do not hit or swear at people. And I failed the party because I cussed somebody out in a heartbeat. So I guess I need to work on that. Do not damage property or crops of the poor, oppressed masses. Do not take liberties with women. If we ever have to take captives, do not ill-treat them. 3 main rules of discipline. Obey orders in all your actions. Do not take a single needle or piece of thread from the poor and oppressed masses. A piece of thread, that's minuscule. Just a little. Don't take nothing.
But it's the principle.
It's the principle. Pay fairly for what you buy. Again, we don't need a new black agenda. It's right here. It has been written.
Yes.
We don't need a new agenda. We need to follow
We need
the
people
one
to
that's been
execute.
laid out that we have.
Exactly.
We just need to execute this plan. Are people afraid?
Oh, I definitely believe that people are afraid. I go back to even, myself when, again, in my younger 20s, when I was in college and taking African American studies classes and learning more. I had the energy, the zeal, and all of that. But again, at the same time, it's like, oh, do we need to be that militant? This was the naive, Brigitte. Now I'm the much more mature and wiser Brigitte. Well, yeah, it does take, some of that. We really do have to take stands because we've noticed that, again, and I am a Christian and I'm a minister. And I believe in the turn the other cheek, and I believe all of that. But I also believe the scripture says, Jesus said, take it by force. He said, when violent come, the violent take it by force. So we do have to, at times, stand up for a really serious cause. I remember I moved from Flint, Michigan to Ypsilanti. I wasn't in the city 9 months, and my 19, I had to think about how old he was. He was 19 at the time. My 19-year-old son is on his way to church with a friend. Friend is 4.0 student, goes to Ann Arbor schools, best of the best kid. You couldn't ask for a kid like this. The two of them are pulled over, guns drawn on them, laying in the middle of the floor, Prospect at Ypsilanti, on the ground rather, because they fit the description. What's the description? They fit the description. Angered as a mother. I have to be worried about my sons every time they walk out. That's a shame. It should not be. But it goes back to what J. Edgar Hoover said. Again, they're scared. They're scared of the intelligence. They're scared of what we can do if we actually got together and went back to the community survival program.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? This is one of those times where I wish I had 2 hours. Our time is up. It went by so fast. I thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
For being here today. I've been enlightened, encouraged, and empowered by your uncle's story. And I was already on the battlefield fighting some, but now I want to wear a beret and a jacket, just to pay homage and respect.
Yes.
When I was researching, I shed tears.
Yes.
I shed tears because I felt I have also let them down. And I promised myself that I would do better.
Yes.
Moving forward. You have been listening to Black Coffee, No Sugar, No Cream. My guest was Brigitte Brown Jackson, the niece of Defense Captain of the Black Panther Party, Mark Clark. I want to close with this statement. The Black Panther Party was not a group of people that hated white Americans, as the media and then at the time the corrupted FBI perceived them to be. The Black Panther Party was a group that fought long and hard for social change in America for oppressed minorities. When other minorities had no hope and nowhere to go, the Black Panther Party was able to provide the uplifting spirit needed and hope and also faith. Regardless of the party's somewhat short reign, they were able to obtain some of the things that they were seeking to do. They were able to influence not only Black America, but America as a whole. Due to the party's ideals and ways of perseverance, the Black Panther Party will go down in history as one of the forgotten and at times unrecognized African American heroes although they help spark a change in the socially divided United States of America. You have been listening to Black Coffee, No Sugar, No Cream. This is a show where I don't try to spill the tea or make you feel dazed like you drank a cheap shot of liquor. I just want you to see things from a different perspective, mine. And we're out of here. Have a great week, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.
I'm just trying to do the best that I can as a strong black man. Yeah. Here I stand as a strong black man, having done all I can to please my fellow man. I don't understand why that knife is in your hand. After doing all I can as a strong black man, I'm gonna take my stand as a black man. I will do the best that I can as a black man. I stand on my own as a black man. I'm gonna sing my song. Oh, this is me. So hear my plea. I'm a young black man, down on my knees. I say this world is wrong, and we don't have too long. I'm gonna take this stand as a strong black man. I feel the rain falling down on me. If you could see what's on my mind, oh, you will see. Everyone would be more kind. Everyone would be happy. I'm gonna keep on my goal. I won't let it go. As a black man, gonna take my stand. As a black man, I'ma do the best that I can. Oh, as a black man, I stand on my as a black man, I'm gonna sing my song. Sometimes I gotta move. Gotta press my way through. Gotta press my way through. No, no.